Hello, my friends. This week we're starting with the tip of the iceberg. Often we hear that what we say is not as important as how we say it, or when or where we say it. But what we say really is important, and we shouldn't forget that. This week, as we discuss both verbal and nonverbal communication, issues and strategies, we deal with all these aspects of interpersonal communication. The main point of this chapter, I guess, if we had to sum it up, language is the root of all evil. When people ask you, what did you learn in graduate school? Yeah, language, root of all evil. Is it driven by symbols? Is the meaning of any given word or phrase or expression, is it have a fixed definition? Or is it all flexible according to the social context? These are just some of the heavy concepts from this week's readings. Reading this chapter, it's wonderful that we're able to communicate at all, even when we speak the same language. Language is arbitrary, it's ambiguous, kind of like my teaching style. It's a moving target. What's crystal clear to you might be a totally murky swamp to me. Think about that with regard to patrons in a library. If you're dealing with coworkers, because you know them and have experience communicating with them, you have some idea about all the other things, all the other factors like nonverbal communication that go into their communication styles. You get a better read of what they do and what they say. But at a public service desk, working with patrons, sometimes language, maybe a few nonverbals, but not much. That's all you've got. Because of the quickness of the interaction, you need to read the signs quickly. There's really not a lot of time for shared negotiation of meaning. So how do we do that? How do we get to a mutual understanding of what their information need really is? So it's along this line, it's very important for you to review the Improving Language Skills section in the textbook. Here's just a few of the highlights. Be more specific and precise. Be more concrete in your language. It's so easy to generalize. Sometimes you need to soften your language and make it more ambiguous, but in most cases, it might be scary, but being more specific and more concrete and more concise can really help a lot. Adapt your language to your listener. This is very important. In library land, as you know, as you've probably heard, all your classes, we use all kinds of jargon. When I first got to college, I went to the library and I heard about the stacks. And you know what I thought about? Oh yeah, IHOP. Stacks of fluffy butternut pancakes. But as it turned out, it was a different kind of stacks that they had in the library. Catalog, database, reference desk, call number, mark record. Before you roll your eyes and mumble about how clueless the patrons are, just try turning the library lingo inside out and hearing how it might sound to an outsider. Sensitivity. Be very careful with stereotypes and generalizations. Just think of the images that appear in people's minds when you say the phrase, yeah, I'm a librarian, or I'm going to library school. If you think they immediately conjure up an image in their head of a super cool 21st century techno hipster or some kind of intrepid info adventurer, better think again. If you don't want to be painted with the brush of a boring, horn-rimmed, glasses with chain, severe bun librarian, boring, be careful about stereotypes. Let's talk about humor. So tricky. Be careful. I can be so funny. Yeah. If you were here, I could totally make milk squirt out your nose. You'd laugh so hard. But what happens when you try to be too funny is you're going along, everybody's laughing, and then it can go terribly wrong. If the people I'm talking to don't quite get the messages that I'm trying to send. So be very careful about using humor, especially with people you don't know. Then as we move on to the topic of nonverbal communication, we get to the rest of the conversational iceberg. Verbal communication is just the tip, my friends. We probably don't appreciate the importance of nonverbals. Depending on what you're reading, nonverbals can represent as much as 93% of what we take away from any given interaction or conversation. We might be totally unaware, but if we're in person, we're broadcasting nonverbals whether we like it or not. And people are interpreting those nonverbals however they please, whether we like it or not. By the way, just kind of a side note, was there anybody who didn't chuckle at the mention of olfactory communication at the beginning of the chapter in Verderber and Berryman Fink? It reminded me of a class I had in library school where the professor was talking about how to deal with smelly patrons. And I'd come from a small town. I mean, we didn't really have a lot of traffic in the library. There just weren't smelly patrons. I had no concept of what she was talking about. But now that I've been a librarian for 15 years or so, I know what she meant. I've learned a little bit about olfactory communication. Back on target. Nonverbals can be used in many ways: to express emotion or lack of it, to convey or emphasize information, to hide emotion, to conceal information altogether. It can show control or dominance. It can show submission. But all nonverbals, or kinesics as they call them, are very important. They can come into play at the reference desk, even in the back room when you're talking with coworkers. Your physical orientation, your gestures, your level of eye contact can all shout messages to others. Just like when you go to the Monkey Mountains in Japan, there's all those signs everywhere that say, don't stare at the monkey, don't look the monkey directly in the eyes. Yeah, they perceive it as a threat, and they'll attack you. Nobody likes a wild monkey attack. Nobody. So another thing, watch your emoticons. It's talking about electronic communication, which increasingly we do more and more of in probably any workplace, but especially in libraries. Who'd have thought there could be nonverbal communication online? If you've ever gotten an email in all caps, though, you know what it's like to hear somebody shouting online. Using appropriate capitals and punctuation, I think that's a symbol of respect, and that's the rule in our class discussions. Some things to consider for improving your nonverbal communication skills, mainly back to self-monitoring. Try to have an out-of-body experience. Look at yourself as you speak. I'm pretty sure San Jose has a class in out-of-body experiences, but if not, you might try to have somebody take a video of you. You'll probably be surprised. I remember a speech I gave one time. My family asked me why I kept running my hands through my hair, and I said, that's ridiculous. I did not do that. And I didn't believe it until I saw the video. And sure enough, there I was, like every 3 minutes, I was running my hands through my hair. It was just a nervous tick, but I think that conveys a message too, doesn't it? So you just want all your nonverbals to support and underscore your verbal message and not detract from it. Finally, be conscious about others' nonverbals, but try not to make too many assumptions about them. I know a guy, very observant guy, notices things that people do that I never see, but he reads a lot into every facial expression, every shrug, every twitch of the head, and sometimes that can be a little bit too much. If you're ever unsure, you can always ask a perception check question. I sense that you're nodding off. I get the impression that you're not interested. Is that right? Boom! Check your perceptions. So bottom line, be careful. Watch yourself. People are listening. Believe it or not. So have a great week. Thanks.